What's going on, everybody? It is time for Truth Will Set You Free, episode number 57. I apologize. We are a little bit late tonight. And, that's we had some issues with Dr. Joel. Hopefully we'll get him on another week. We had some tech issues, but we're still talking COVID. We're talking door-to-door vaccinations, the Lambda variant in, I think, Australia. And we're going to talk about how Joey Basement says getting the V word is the most patriotic thing you can do, like our boy Jay, Liberal Jay, has posted one time. I don't know if maybe Joe Biden is following Liberal Jay. I don't know. But one of the big things we're going to talk about is Cori Bush, a Democrat congresswoman from Missouri, is saying July 4th is for white people. Why do people hate the 4th of July so damn much? And speaking of hating the country, women's national team, the Soccer USA, whatever the hell, I don't know if we can call it USA anymore, they, quote unquote, disrespected the World War II veteran, and we're going to talk about that. Casey and I have two different opinions. That's what Truth Will Set You Free is going to be about. Do us a favor, start sharing this out there. We have got about 30 seconds until showtime, which means we're about there. I need some more likes, need some more thumbs, need some more shares, need some more eyeballs. Let's get it on. It's time for Truth Will Set You Free. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. It's time for Truth Will Set You Free. Welcome. Please do us a favor. Share. We have 20 out of the 75 people watching right now have hit the like, share, hearts, care button, which means it's time for you. Count of 3, 3, 2, 1. That helps break the algorithm. Let's get the party started. I'm going to introduce you guys to the people you already know. Suni right now is backstage. She's finishing up an Instagram conversation that she's been having for a bit. And then after we talk about the V word and the C word, that sounds really super dirty. Once we get done with that, she's going to jump on. We're going to talk more about all the 4th of July hate and why people, for some odd reason, hate this country so ridiculously much. I don't understand. I forgot to pull the mic so close, so now I don't have to yell so much. All right. Let's see who we got on this show. We've got Casey and Eazy-E himself. Casey, what's going on? Both of you guys, how was your 4th of July?
Fantastic, man. Just a lot of work. It was fun. Had a random fireworks shoot off into my back of my house, and we almost lit my front yard on fire. But it was all worth it.
Oh, fantastic. Nothing better than fireworks in your backyard. Sounds like you've started making the transition. Eazy-E.
We hit Tahoe. We hit Tahoe. We did the whole thing with the kids. We did see somebody lighting fireworks off in their backyard. So for perspective reference, I think you're okay, Casey. This guy was a much bigger idiot than you are. But we had a good time. We traveled, did some Tahoe, did some Sacramento, and now we're back home enjoying our time.
And as a reminder, guys, all of the shows that you see on the network, BetheChange.com/podcast. Please, you can watch that later. If you cannot afford to help us in any way, shape, or form, that's the way to do it right there, is by subscribing and watching. It helps show that we actually have people that give a shit. So please watch us on our podcast. If you're listening on the podcast right now, thank you. Thank you very much. Tell your friends about it. So again, we got great things to talk about. Stephanie, I see you guys in the comments. I got a link for Daddy of the Year. So I sent you a link. It was a joke, really. Dad wearing a Dare shirt, busted for drugs while kids were in the car. It's actually pretty damn funny. It's not funny. It's sad. So that's where you're going to go for that. And if you do want to support us, Patreons, we need you. That's how we, try to at least cover costs. I'm going to go ahead and put that up on the screen as well. There is other ways. Venmo, you can ask. Nikki will hook you up on how to do that. But ultimately, the Patreons are the one that I can at least keep in touch with. If I do have a special message, if I do have updates with Cash, that's where I'm going to make sure I'm sending those so that we're not constantly asking in the box. If you want the update, he had a pretty good 4th of July. They are now up to 5 hours out, so they're having more of a normal stay. On the downside, there is it's looking like the earliest any of the people in there are actually going to have their trial is February. So for those not Cash that aren't already in jail for a different reason, also they will have trespassing charges and not be able to have a trial for a calendar year. Let's let that sink in. February, and they got arrested in February. It's insane.
That's absolute insanity.
Anyways, before we get started with today's show, there is so much fighting going on over so many different things. It's absurd, and let's just throw it out there. All the political parties are just absolutely crap at this point. America First loses its steam because they can't get proper news coverage. Nothing, and just even talking on the internet feels daunting when we're talking to a few hundred people at a time. We are going through a lot of stuff to actually have any semblance of truth. Meanwhile, things like we're about to talk about, things that we said would happen and people looked at us like we're nuts, like door-to-door vaccination knocks. And we've been told we've been nuts forever, and it's actually happening. And what's making it daunting is they're finding a way to have the Republican and conservative people, not just party, turn on each other and say, no, you feel one way, you feel another way. And it's just absolutely mind-boggling. And we're all doing it to each other, and it's unfortunate. At this point, anybody that has a positive spin on America right now, I will stand up for, plain and simple. I really don't care at this point. Difference in opinions, whatever it is. If you want to make the best of America, I don't really care. If you want to take America back, I don't really care. That's the kind of people I want to ride with at this point. We have to realize my whole philosophy is we have a difference in opinion. We just do. But I was tired this weekend. Like, I had fun on 4th of July, but I was like, I don't even want to get on the internet because people are angry right now, you know?
Well, and it's creating what the government wants. The government wants people to be divided. The government wants people to not be together and united and have a mission or a love or a care for the country. Because as soon as you do, you take the control back from them. And so if we keep with this division that they keep pushing, and it's weird because a lot of people are saying it's not working. But we're seeing the media keep pushing harder and harder. So I'm thinking that it isn't really working. It's just some of the media outlets and a few of the odd ducks it's starting to work for. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, the bizarre sentiment of anti-Americanism right now is running rampant to the point where so people are just losing their minds. And I think I'm with you, Anthony. Anybody who's willing to ride or die for this country is somebody I'm about.
PT News was earlier, and it's funny. Like, I don't always watch him, Steve, but he had a good bit, and he's like, I've never seen, like, he gets angry, gets frustrated. At one point, he's like, do I think the country's gonna get better? I don't know. I don't know. Like, and I've never seen him quite that dejected. And it's like, I feel it. Like, you've got, and it's not just the people, it's the way that it's infiltrated. Like, the people like that don't support Trump page. And I know I keep giving way too much credit to what he's doing to create hate, but shit, that son of a bitch has to have somebody on the inside. And he is managing, he got his page taken down for a half a day. And now the more people I've talked to, there's more people sending. I think I just got another message about somebody else that's been doxxed by him. And Instagram lets it slide no matter how against their policies it is. And it just shows that we are fighting such an uphill battle that it's like, where we always just say on the show, what's the solution? What's the, and at this point, like, they've taken like our freedom of speech. They've censored it to the point where, we have a fraction of the viewers. The ability for us to report other accounts, they've made that so it doesn't matter if it opposes the viewpoint. They've now started calling for people to report other extremists. And by extremists, they mean anybody that, thought Trump is a decent president. It's like, what the hell? Meanwhile, in the last week, you've got both media sides doing two different things. One side saying, the audit's going to be, we're going to find out about the audit in Arizona on Monday of last week. And then the other side was going, Trump is going to be arrested by Tuesday for all the crimes. And technically, the guy that was arrested turned himself in and he's pleading not guilty. But all the media is making sure that everybody thinks that Trump is getting arrested if you're from the left and that and that the audit's going to show this crazy amount of the F word on the right, and it's like the misdirection and misinformation is mind-boggling. Gina, tag us.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will say it's getting daunting, which is why I would love any support you have on patreon.com. Anyways, moving on. /BetheChange USA.
So I'll just say this. I want to give some hope out, if that's okay.
Thank God, because right now I got DJ Poopy Pants over here.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I am in California, and it is absolutely, everybody knows the story here. It's a mess. Everybody can point to this place and say it's a liberal bastion of craziness, I think is a fair way to put it. I just spent a whole week up in Northern California, and I had one of the best 4th of Julys I've had in years. And what I mean by that is I had an entire neighborhood linked together. We spent thousands of dollars to put this on, but we made a fireworks show that you probably could have seen from outer space. And these were some God-fearing, good Christian people who wanted to see their country open. Not a mask in sight. Nobody afraid to have a hard conversation. Political spectrum of every type. And ultimately, the one thing that bonded us all together was the American flag, some fireworks, and celebrating the freedoms we enjoy. It is not dead. It is hibernating. And I think that the 4th of July for me was a wide eyes open situation where I got to see people in California saying, enough. We will not bend our knee and stand down and wait for somebody to tell us it's okay to celebrate the beauty that is the freedoms we enjoy. It's hopeful for me.
Was that around? I mean, that's Northern California. So was that in your Shasta County, the red, white, and blueprint people, or was it just around there?
Absolutely no. This was in Sacramento.
Oh, Sacktown. Nice. Okay. Yeah, the red, white, and blueprint, I think it's on episode 4 already. I need to catch up on it. I suggest all of you guys also check that out too. So yeah, and if people are wondering where Suni is finishing up an IG live. She'll be on once we start talking, once we go past the door-to-door vaccines, which is going to be our first topic. So, and that's why I was going to have Dr. Joel talk. He's going to be on hopefully next week. Our kids episode, by kids, I mean like young adults, whatever, I'm actually going to push to the 20th. So we're going to start doing that. That'll be 2 Tuesdays from now. That's when we'll have that episode. But next week, maybe we'll try again with Dr. Joel. And also there's a couple other people we were trying to get as well. All right. So door-to-door vaccines. Oh, man. Easy. Go ahead. Explain I know you know what's going on. Explain the quote or what Joey B said, our president in charge.
Simply put, the man is pushing for this is man, it's really hard. I don't want to compare this to Crystal Knock because that's not what this is. But this is the measuring stool or measuring stick which we can use to understand what tools will be used when they want to come to your home the next time. So from my understanding, he got up, made a speech. I believe it was this morning or last night. I have to double check. I just kind of got the news this morning. And in essence, what he said is we need to take this to a community level. And then pontificated and articulated that the ultimate goal there was to see that become something that was available for people to knock on your door to essentially hand out pamphlets and go ahead and try and convince you that the vaccine is safe. Now, that's all fine. That's all dandy. But the minute that they start sending government agents to your door to knock on anything, to ask you a question, is the moment you should be thinking in your head, my Fourth Amendment rights are being infringed.
100%. And Saki doubled down on it earlier today and said, she's like, well, what we mean is we're going to be, having teams. We're going to have canvassing teams, and they're going to go around and they're going to provide information on why the V word is, safe and all this stuff. Meanwhile, if anybody has any friends, like I don't know how anybody hasn't talked to somebody that hasn't had an adverse reaction or known a friend of a friend that's passed away or I can now name, I think I said this on a live recently, I can now name by first degree of separation more people that have passed away from that than, and again, older, younger, 20-year-olds I heard a story about, I've had more of that than I had of actual people that passed away from the vid. Casey, what do you think?
No, I agree with that. My work, there's something that we joke about. We have more people calling in sick from work due to the shot, well, the jab, than we did COVID in general, and it's stupid. Going around enforcing it, I don't see that happening in red states. Try it. I don't see it ending well. I just I'm sure you could try it in California. There's going to be enough yuppies there to try to take it.
In fact, let me be clear. This was the proving ground for the theoretical evidence that they're using to push this out. So here in Riverside County, where I live, adjacent to Orange County, we're a pretty even-keeled group of people between Orange County and Riverside counties. You have a predominant majority that fall very much in the middle. So you have very conservative people, you have very liberal people, but most of the general population falls into this. And they tried this in Orange County, and people just basically got online, said there are people in your neighborhood, don't answer your doors, completely fell flat on its face. They weren't able to complete the task at hand. And even more to that point, they had less people participating from the employment side to come and volunteer to do these things. And for me, that's a good show and a good sign that people maybe on a fundamental level may understand that what they're asked to do is not just a job anymore.
I also want to know why it's even making sense for them to ask this shit. Like they're making such a push. I've talked about the issues with how they're pushing the Delta variant, and interestingly enough, I just saw an article about a guy that's now in the hospital, like end stages with the C word, that had that has the Delta version of the vid and had the V. And a lot of people are saying the people that have the Delta variant, I got to be so careful with my words, are actually the ones that have not been V-worded. They are getting it, but they're having a milder version than the ones that are catching it. They're saying the Delta variant is not doing great with anybody that's had the shot. They're saying it's not really having much of an effect. And then now in Australia, the Lambda, even a more aggressive and faster spreading version of the D word, they're accidentally slipping out some information saying that the shot has literally nothing to do to help that version of it. Yet they're still going, the sooner you get the V word, the better, which makes zero scientific sense in the same sentence of what they just said. I don't understand at this point.
Israel just released some new revised numbers and is saying that the Pfizer V is 64% effective as of today's evaluation of their current numbers.
64%. Yeah, we're making it
not
seem
from 94 to 64, just to be clear.
Well, gosh, I mean that changes my mind. I'm gonna go out tomorrow.
Boosters, anybody?
And then, oh god, and people the conspiracy crazies kept saying all this is gonna do is weaken our immune systems for the next big, COVID 23 or 22 that comes out, and we're already seeing it that it has less resource on the Delta variant, less resource, no resource on the Lambda. We've literally given ourselves a shot that has less efficacy than those that have already had the disease, and people are still getting sick. It's mind-boggling. So I want to show this real quick. I think almost Sunni, not quite over yet. We're finishing up right here. I want to show this graph because I showed it last time, and I think it's an interesting one to show because, again, why are we still freaking out? Why is Joe Biden saying that they're going to send canvassing teams to tell people why it's safe when this is the current situation, why they're freaking out about Delta variant and all the crap like that, when this is what's going on? The numbers are still going down. This is the death count. This is July 5th. And actually, if you look really, really close on there, we had probably our lowest day ever right around July 4th, right in that little bubble right over there. So we keep here. Wait, what do we got? Let's go all the way to July 5th, 7-day moving average 163. So we keep going down. Now, there's some new cases coming up. Again, I think they're pushing the numbers to test. But let's go ahead and have some fun and say daily cases. Daily cases also going down. I find this interesting, even though this is on CDC, that although the numbers keep getting lower, that almost looks like it's going up right here based on their little red line, which just to make sure people look really quick, but it doesn't really matter. The numbers are new cases. Let's see, 7-day moving average. Everything is still dropping drastically. None of this makes sense to why everybody is freaking the F out.
So, I just want to point this out. Every time somebody talks about a variant, it's really, really important to remember, guys, COVID itself, the coronaviruses are extremely common. In fact, are the most common illness in which we are infected as humans. And so understand that these variants that they talk about are really just a statistical booster to a narrative that's already out there, right? So we've got the Delta variant, we've got the Lambda variant. I think it's in Peru, not necessarily, and I'm not Australia, but I may be mistaken on that. But to be very careful about when we talk about these specific numbers, they're tracking a big swath of what would otherwise never be tracked as individual illnesses. And so it's a very, very deceptive tactic that they're using in order to continue to ask.
Agreed. So somebody asked this question. Sorry, go ahead, Casey, and then I'm going to bring up Suni to talk about the military thing.
Last thing on it is with COVID is Singapore has also announced that they are treating COVID as the flu going forward. They are not going to have any special scenarios or anything handled. They're just going to handle it just like the flu as going forward.
Never wanted to get caned more a day in my life. All right, Suni, I'm going to bring you up. I want you to... Too soon for that joke? God, that feels like yesterday. I'm getting so friggin' old. Let's see. Easy E, like that one. Where did it go? There it is. Suni, I'm bringing you up. You got your headphones on? Suni does not have her headphones on.
Is your mute button on?
Mute. While I wait for her to see that we're going to call on her. Oh, there we go. The Soonster. Ladies and gentlemen, Suni Blanks.
I'm muted. Hello.
Yeah. What's up? So I wanted to bring you, we're just about done talking COVID. So I heard you even talking about this earlier. They're not about forcing it on the military. Heard that, but just got home, haven't had time to check. They're not forcing it yet, but they're saying it's imminent. What is your husband going to do when that happens? What are you going to do as a family?
Well, just to clear some misconceptions, they cannot force us to get anything that is not FDA approved. So as long as this is not FDA approved, it is considered experimental, which gives us the right to choose. Now, my husband, look, prove that there's nothing wrong with it because we get flu shots. I'll get your shot. No problem, because he's property of the government, just like we all are. We have to adhere to rules. But the point that we're all making is there's not enough evidence. There's not enough testing. I'm not getting your shot. Get it FDA approved, get it up to par, get the testing done, and we'll get it. But we're not being forced to get anything. They cannot, by law, force a vaccine that is not FDA approved. That goes against the rules.
Suni, by law, they technically are not supposed to be going door to door asking people or talking to people about vaccinations. That's breaking the Fourth Amendment, as Easy said earlier. So they're starting to skirt some things. Even the use of this as an emergency, as an EUA, is changing the rules a bit. And I take away the whole fact that even if it is FDA approved, I think that's bought and paid for garbage. But let's say that all of a sudden they make the switch and say EUA and all, just because of how dangerous this is, we're going to force the military to take it. What do you think?
I don't know. Like, I'm living it. So I see these things happen. I can't even answer hypotheticals because it's not approved now. Like, and we're still not being forced to get it. Yeah. What they're doing is, hey, we got 80% of our squadron vaccinated. What do you guys think about it? They have meetings. Okay, well, if you guys don't want to get vaccinated, we're going to cut off your travel. You can't go here, here, and here, which is going to force people, in a sense, to say, I'm tired of being isolated to this island. Okay, I'm going to go get the shot. But they cannot, and they will not mandate something that is not FDA approved. They will not. That goes against military law.
We'll see. I get it. I think we'll see. And I also think, again, the whole switching it to FDA is going to be dangerous. They've ignored all of the different bad things that have been happening to this point. Why not continue? In all reality, they have to FDA approve it, no matter what. At this point, they're so pot committed. They're gonna have to. My thought process is for military is that could be where the line in the sand is drawn. I know there's enough military people that are against what's going on. They're seeing the research, they're seeing friends that if there wants to be, I think the military will be our best stand where there could be tens of thousands of Army, Navy, Air Force going, nope, and saying, you dishonorably discharge me, do what you have to. And then all of a sudden we have to dishonorably discharge 50,000 Americans. I think that is probably going to be the ultimate last stand if it gets to that point. And even if it gets to an FDA approval, which, as I said, I think is garbage. If it gets to that point, it really, I think, will be our military to go, God, just because the FDA has approved it, the CDC, FDA, WHO are all bought and paid for at this point. I don't trust anybody. And based on the fact that I have a niece, a nephew, an uncle, a cousin, a friend of a friend that's all had extreme adverse reactions, potential death, miscarriages, guess what? Not going to do it. And then we'll see.
Well, you know what? You waive that right when you sign your name on your contract. So people don't. The military is socialism, all right? You do what you're told.
Yeah.
There is no debating. There is no, well, my cousin, auntie, there's not enough research. We have tested it. We're looking at the rest of the soldiers. It hasn't affected because I haven't heard of an active duty soldier here on this island, and 80% of us are vaccinated that has adverse effects. You haven't heard of it. If they FDA approve this and you go against the grain, you're getting articles, you're getting your pay docked, or you're getting kicked out. Period.
Oh, I don't like it. All right, let's switch doors. Let's go. One door opens, another door closes. Wait, it's backwards. Well, that's actually a theme for America these days. Let's go to what? Shut up, easy. Let's go ahead and talk about. Let's do women's soccer. Let's start out with the debate. U.S. women's national team, as you guys have probably all seen, there was the article and the Twitters that went out yesterday saying women's national team turns their back on 98-year-old World War II veteran. It got shared all over the place, and it showed that half of the team had their back turned, etc. But they made a mistake because they didn't have their back turned. They just turned a different direction. So some of the players are facing the flag, hand on chest, and some have their hand behind their back facing straight ahead, which actually the anthem singer / harmonica player was standing kind of to the side of them. So they were not facing him, to be very clear. So they issued this statement today that no, some chose to face the singer, some chose to face the flag. There was no disrespect. And now people are up in arms apologizing like, oh my God, how could I have thought that? Casey, what are your thoughts on this there, Big Cat?
You already know. So here's where there needs to be more detail, but here's why I say this. So if we look at this screen capture, this is the stadium they're in. And Anthony, as being an MC, like most of the stuff, cameras and all of that is going to be up here on the left. Mm-hmm. And so the cameras are going to be looking down. He's doing the harmonica and doing the national anthem somewhere right here.
Yep.
The people that turned and faced, there's an American flag right here.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is where I also looked at the people in the back behind the person that's singing that national anthem. I don't think this is the video I got but if you look at the people behind the guy that was singing, playing the harmonica, he actually had, you see them facing the same direction. And so there is enough evidence there for me to say, I need to see more videos and I need to see more detail before I can go and crucify someone over this. At first, I was up in arms. I was pissed. But now that I actually see the whole story, I'm like, well, not the whole story, but this part of the story, I need to see more before I can say they are turning on America and they are not backing America or supporting America in any way.
I have a completely different opinion. I'm going to wait, though. Suni, what are your thoughts on this?
Listen, I don't know crap about this. Like he said, if they are turning around to face the flag, I don't see what the issue is. I don't know.
Wait, what flag? What flag?
The
They're not
American flag that he just showed. He
Yeah,
just
he
showed
showed
that there's a flag.
the one that. Hold on. Let's see. I've got a couple different images I'm going to try to bring up real fast. So, wait for it. I'll bring up the big one too.
Okay.
So one of them is there is no flag straight ahead. What the people that are in the stands are doing is you face the singer or the person playing. Now, as somebody that has done hundreds of these games, what I'm going to tell you is sometimes people don't know where the actual flag is. That is a very big stadium, as Casey just showed. You face somewhere around the middle, and essentially, as long as you are in the stadium with your hand on your heart, that is what you do. If you are a player on the field, you face the flag because you know where it is. Sometimes I've seen people before a match kind of go to each other when they're actually in the lineup and like, where do we go? And then once somebody sees it, they all turn and go. These are usually more of an amateur event. Now, with that said, never in all my years of doing events, watching TV during events, hosting events, have I ever seen a team not all stand in the same direction? Once there is no chance in hell those girls were not granted they weren't turning their back. That was the incorrect statement made. They were simply protesting the anthem, which they were choosing to protest the anthem. We know enough about U.S. women's soccer to know what they were doing and what their political opinions are. So here's the thing: the U.S. whatever governing body made a very interesting thing. They made them make a decision. If they wanted to protest the anthem, they were going to have to do it to a 98-year-old veteran. Okay? And they did. And then in the next day, because they knew they were being crucified, they came up with the biggest bullshit excuse in history, which was, we were not disrespecting, we were facing a different flag, or we were facing the anthem singer. They're not facing the anthem singer. That would have meant they would have been facing left. And facing straight ahead is not, they're literally looking at a damn wall. It is the biggest gaslight bullshit in history. It's a blatant lie. I'm going to pull up two pictures in a second.
I think it's interesting because in this situation, I actually don't think there's a clear delineation that there was an intention behind it. So it would confuse me, I guess, to say if there was a protest, why wasn't there a reason for the protest, right? So that's where I guess I can find room to try and understand what was happening. Was there a confusion about where they need to be standing? My frustration starts with this, though, is that it's been convoluted for a long enough period of time. I think people have forgotten etiquette that is supposed to follow with these specific things. And so I'm not going to place all of the blame on these soccer players. It sure shit looks terrible, and it's not something that I can agree with on a fundamental level. But I don't know that it is what you think it is, and therefore I'm not going to get gaslit by it because it could have been a mistake. I think the etiquette has been lost. People don't respect what they used to as much as they used to. It may have been some communication gaps, but if they had a message, they would have put it out by now, right?
Well, that's what's different. And so, like, this is what we were talking about. What Russo is describing. They're facing all the women that are sideways are facing the flag that I pointed out in the picture. And so here's the part that is interesting is everybody was blowing up over the picture and pointing out all the people that are sideways in this, not the people that are facing forward. Russo, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're pretty much pointing out only the people that are facing forward, not the people that are facing the flag. Because
correct.
Okay. But every other picture shared on social media is criticizing the people turning left, not the people facing forward.
No, I've heard everybody. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just watched the video, and they're facing the same direction everybody else is facing. All the people facing forward.
Well, at the very beginning they do, and then they change. They reposition, as in you see here. Because here's the video. I'm not sharing audio, but they're facing the flag, and then you can actually see
It's not the other team's job to face the American flag. It's what we do. We face the flag.
Yeah, I'm not saying them. I'm referring to the women's national team, which is in the red and the ugly right here. So every picture that I saw was pointing out the ones here that are sideways, not these 5 that are facing forward. And so that's what I was pointing out, is all the stuff that I saw were the other direction. But I get what you're saying now. You are actually pointing out the people that are facing forward.
Everybody I heard was talking about the people with their hands behind their back, not holding their hands over their heart and facing a different direction than the rest of their team. Let me show you. Okay. Let me show you what this looks like. Let me show you something that this looks like. It looks a lot like this. Am I wrong? It's one person facing straight ahead where the other two are facing the flag. It's almost paying homage to this exact instant.
Not at all. This comparing what Gwen Berry did to these girls is apples and oranges. I'm just going to be honest.
I won't say it's fully because Gwen Berry went ham about it, but the women's national soccer team has done this forever. They've been doing this. Megan Rapinoe has been leading the charge of anti-American
she's not on the team
rhetoric. She's not, but it doesn't matter. So that's why it's less there. But there is 1, 2.
There's 5.
3, 4, 5.
I can name 4 of those 5 players.
Okay, so you've got them there. So I'm going to ask the question again. When have you ever seen a team, especially a national team, not all facing the same direction during the national anthem? Ever.
I mean, you want to talk about basketball games where sometimes players are like,
oh, sorry.
I mean, it's not unheard of. It's not unheard of. It's not. I played basketball my entire life. I've been to plenty of NBA games. Not everybody pays attention during the national anthem, and they don't all face the same way.
A lot of times they'll move around like this, whatever. But and I get it. NBA is also not a huge fan of the anthem. We've discovered that, but they're all facing the same direction. If your team is facing the flag, they all face the same way. I've never seen a team being so regimented in one facing forward, one facing at an angle.
Here's the thing. What Gwen Berry did was she put a shirt over her head that read her stance. Mm-hmm. What these girls did was stand in opposite direction. I feel like we're whining at this point. I'm just going to be honest. They're not standing the right way. Well, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. We have rights as an American. All right. If they chose not to face the flag, they chose not to face the flag. They didn't put a shirt over their head. They didn't mope around and do ignorant stuff like this girl did, which was just blatantly disrespectful. They're there. They're quiet. Their hands are behind their back, which is you're standing at rest. That's what we do in the military. Stand at rest. What? I mean, I don't know. I just think that we are. Go ahead. I just feel like conservatives and Republicans are whining at this point now.
So maybe it's the nice long vacation I just had, right? And some celebrating some freedom in America, particularly here in California, that kind of took my mind off this. But I think we are becoming relatively sensitive as a culture to these things. Now, I think we should be aware, but I think to kind of circle back on what I said earlier, which is if there's not a clear argument about what it is they're trying to change or justify, and I don't think it's like Gwen Berry. Gwen Berry was clearly very disrespectful. But part of the reason it was so different was because there was a clear delineated message of here's my gripe, right? And we don't see that same messaging being put forward. Now, we could absolutely say that the response was lackluster.
That's the chicken shit part.
Chicken shit. But I don't know that
they've been doing this. The U.S. women's national team for soccer has been doing this forever. But because of the immense amount because it was a 98-year-old World War II veteran, the flack that they got over the 24-hour span caused them to not take responsibility and say what they were really doing and instead gaslight the whole country. Am I being sensitive? Sure, I don't care. At this point, after hearing in 4th of July that 4th of July is no longer a fucking holiday for anybody except for white people and all the different shit, personally, at this point, I've become more of a fucking patriot in the sense of saying, go fuck yourself. You play for the national team. I can't deal with this shit. And honestly, if that makes me a snowflake in this moment,
no, I think
fine.
Disrespect is disrespect. I see a couple people in the comments kind of with that same sentiment. I think we need to reset our mentality and realize that people have tolerated disrespect for such a period of time now that it's become pretty regular, and maybe there is just some genuine confusion.
Maybe. Suni, go ahead.
How do we know that these ladies were protesting? Because our opinions really don't mean shit here. It matters as to what they say. Did they say they were protesting?
The individuals have not made statements, probably because they've been muzzled. That's my alleged thought. But the
We're
team
speculating then.
I am speculating because the team, it's amazing to me that this worked. Like, I cannot believe that their press spin worked on the American public to make them believe that they had no ill intentions, when I can tell you I've never seen in my whole entire life a national team turn different ways and it not be in protest, whether it's kneeling, whether it's facing a different direction, whether it's turning your back. I've never seen this done before, and they managed to make up this excuse that is somehow like, it's literally allowed. People are actually taking the gaslighting in, sucking it in. I think logic prevails in this. This is a team that's always bucked against the anthem over the last 15 years, always. And then all of a sudden, yes, Megan Rapinoe is not on the team. She's still on the bench. Then all of a sudden there is people facing in one direction. And I think Casey did say that they shift in the beginning. I didn't even see that. That to me even proves my point even further. But say they didn't. Say one is facing the flag and the one set is facing all the way in one direction. I want to look up I would love, in order to confirm this, know more of the social media of the players that protested, see what their sentiments have been in the past, see what their sexual orientations are, if they are big, like, this is why I don't believe in the United States. I think that matters because it's going to actually, it would paint a picture that makes it even more obvious. But again, because it was a 98-year-old veteran, the flack they got forced them to make this statement instead of what probably, again, speculation, would have been, we believe in representing our country, but we do not believe in the flag, which they're allowed to do. I still say that. We have a free country. You're allowed to do that. Same way I have a free country of saying, I think you're an asshat.
No, and I can tell you Kristen Press, the very furthest one that's facing closest to the American flag, that's on the end facing forward. She definitely is. I could see her protesting and doing that, along with the person right next to her. But the very first person in that line, closest to the Army veteran, the guy that was playing with the harmonica, I don't see her doing it. Like, that's where she is different. She has a different culture about herself in the way she carries herself and the way she talks. Kristen Press, and trying to say her last name and I butcher it every freaking time. But they used to play for the women's soccer team here in Salt Lake that we just sold to another state. But that's how I know those two very well and how they do their things. And Kristen Press, I'm not a fan of in general. But the other one I don't see her doing that in the way she carries herself and was active in the community and promoted USA and America. Like, it's a little weird to me. And that's where I struggle saying it's a disrespect thing, because I struggle with that part. But like people are saying, some people are saying in the comments about being gaslit, what is the point of this conversation when they are not even coming out and talking? The national team has made a single statement. Let's see what it turns into. If they continue to protest in the next game, then you have your answer.
Well, we can end the conversation here. My point is the fact that we are so easily manipulated, in my opinion, as a country, to hear one statement, short, succinct, perfectly packaged, that makes us all believe that everything was well and good and there was no ill intentions. And I think it shows, because I think that goes for both. And honestly, I know you guys, it sounds like you guys mostly disagree with me, which is completely fine. I just think I think it's amazing that one sentence was able to completely shift the sentiment just by saying, no, we didn't do that.
Well, ahead, Russo, you're making an assumption. You're not. None of this is rooted in fact. None of this is rooted in what you think because of the history of the team, which honestly doesn't matter. If they came out and said we were facing a flag, and I'm looking at the video, they'll have their hands over their hearts and they're facing the flag.
That's the people that I think are not protest. They're not protesting the anthem. I'm talking about.
So you think they should look at the flag and not straight ahead? Like everybody's facing the same direction as the guy playing the harmonica. I don't see where
that's not the way it's done in Olympic or NCAA. Like you face where the flag is when you're on the field.
So now we're into like technicalities.
So that no, it's not. But that's what I'm saying. Why as a team? And I made this joke earlier on something different. I said,
"So what? They're not military."
What's that?
Not you. I was reading the comment.
No, this perfectly sums up America right now, because I've never seen a national team not know which way to face. Then, if this is the truth, not know which way to face during a national anthem. The fact that we literally cannot get a team together to say, we're going to look at the flag. No, we're going to look straight ahead. No, we're going to look at the flag. You know what? We don't need to let's just do our own thing. That's not the way it's done. It's never been done that way, ever.
Nah, I think people are being sensitive. They're looking at the man playing the harmonica. They're looking dead at him. I'm looking at the video.
They're not looking at him. They're looking straight ahead. The man playing a harmonica is off to their left. He's in the middle between the two teams. They're looking straight ahead at the stands.
So they have to look at him?
No,
like, I don't understand.
I think they all need to look in the same way, but that's the thing. In their response, they said we were looking at the anthem singer or the anthem whatever, the harmonica player. And that's also a lie. They were not looking at him. They were looking straight ahead. They were literally finding excuses. Does it matter on the grand scheme of things? No. Does it matter that we can be easily gaslit? I think it does.
I live on a base. I mean, when you are on base and you hear the national anthem, you don't face the flag. You stop where you are. You put your hand over your heart, period, point blank. So are we all disrespectful in the military because we don't face the flag?
No, it's a completely different come from. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Is this, am I creating what I believe in this? Absolutely. But am I speculating? Yes. But when something comes from basic logic, using the team's past you're using elements to create a story. Most of the stories we do are not, we are not in the meetings at the Pentagon. We are not in the meetings with Trump. We're not in the meetings with Biden. We are speculating based on verbiage used, based on pattern of behavior. And that's how we come to a belief system. Are we 100% on anything we say? I hope not. I never think I am. Because that's dangerous. Unless I have, like on the COVID stuff, I'm probably much closer to 100% than I am on this, because we've had so many people send us information. We've had people send us like, this is my brother, this is my uncle, this is my whatever. So that we have more concrete evidence. This, no. But logic to me tells me it's one way.
I don't know, man. I see. I'm exposed to military life, so when I like this honestly seems extremely petty. It seems petty. You have people that put their hands over their heart. You have people that stand at parade rest. And a lot of soldiers will stand at parade rest when they're in their uniform.
I'd be fine with parade rest if they were all facing the same direction.
Parade rest is with your hands behind your back.
I'm fine
with that.
Attention
is with you. I'm talking to because they don't understand the difference.
Oh, sorry.
There's a couple.
When you're standing at attention, you stand with your hands at your side. When you're at parade rest, your hands are behind your back. And this to me, I'm a military spouse. All right, I love America, but this seems really sensitive to me.
I have less issues with this or this. Honestly, my biggest issue is the fact they're backtracking. That's my biggest issue. Is the fact, to me, I believe that they're backtracking. And maybe Kelly said in the comments, maybe they realized they were wrong, and this is their apologize and say it was a miscalculation. Take fucking responsibility for what it is. I just don't see this not being a on purpose act. There is nothing to me that I can see this and not think it's on purpose.
Because I'm often put in a situation where people think you're doing something for this reason. And people are completely wrong. Like, you're not going to tell me why I was doing something unless you heard it directly from me. So I'm not going to make assumptions about why they did what they did. These girls are standing at parade rest. They are facing whatever direction they're facing. They didn't turn their backs and they put shirts over their head. They didn't make excuses and say, oh, I was set up. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just
We'll
it
see.
just seems like
We'll see.
spilled
And
milk.
honestly, again, I don't think it matters. I think the reason I want to discuss it is because I think it's interesting that we can have difference in opinions by seeing the same thing, and we all typically agree on everything. So it's always good to see when we disagree. And to me, it's just, I think it's part of my continued, and this goes into our next conversation.
Yeah.
It goes in.
Just to
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you are in the military or not. It is a sign of respect to stand at parade
yeah.
rest. You
I've got no
guys are
problem with that either.
arguing technicalities in the comment section, and you're so far off, bro. It doesn't matter if you're military or not. It just doesn't.
My issue is the lack of cohesiveness, not not standing at rest, not at all. Like I've got no problem.
We've seen far worse. We've seen people burn a flag. We've seen people say
They're
crazy
not representing
things.
our country, though.
They are, though, because we're American citizens at the end of the day. So we are absolutely representatives of our country. When I'm here, I'm a representative of America. Whether I'm a service member or not, I'm a civilian, but you represent the United States of America.
It's a little, but that's not the line we use when we talked about Gwen Berry. So it is a little bit different. You are going to, when we talked about Gwen Berry, we're like, but she's representing the United States of America. And we place a little bit more. We are representatives of the United States of America, but these girls are about to be on a world stage representing the country that they may or may not detest. We don't know.
So can I present this as maybe a logical win, actually?
Okay, go ahead.
And I'll frame it this way, right? Which is, I as I'm reading the comments, I'm seeing some people say, well, maybe they're backtracking. If that's the case and they're backtracking from a quote unquote protest, then in essence, in my opinion, that's a logical win for America. Because if you're going to protest in a weird and strange way by disrespecting the flag, and then the next day not stick to your guns and hold to that protest, in some way, shape, or form, you've now your logic has been busted and it's been turned 180 degrees. You can no longer stand and represent what you think. So either way, whether it's a gaslighting intentionally or unintentionally, I think we can at least say it's a logical win for America to say, if you're not going to stand at attention or be a part of this, then you're going to get some twisted comments. You're going to get some weird eyes. And you're going to gaslight a nation. And so you better come quick with the statement, right? So I'm going to present it as a logical win.
I'll take that. I'll agree. I guess we'll see. What happens the rest. And again, it doesn't matter. I don't know. All right. So, but I think part of the reason I was so heated on that topic is just all the stuff I saw, specifically starting with Cori Bush, that just went ham. Oh, God. When they say that the 4th of July is about American freedom, remember this. The freedom they're referring to is for white people. This land is stolen and black people still aren't free. So I did some more research on Cori Bush. Cori Bush is a congresswoman, Democrat from the state of Missouri. She aligned herself with the Black Lives Matter group when she became the first black congresswoman from Missouri. She has framed politics in racial terms using phrases white supremacy. She uses systemic racism, black liberation, and racial justice and structural inequity. She unseated a long-seated family, a white family, out of their stronghold, which is always a good thing. We believe, term limits are a bitch, and it's good that she finally put in some fresh meat in there, which is great. But she did it on the backs of pandering and talking about critical race theory, racist dog whistles, all these. She's called for unspecified reparations. And one interview, which we might play later, or she spoke in front of the state government, state legislature, talking about, and this is her tweet, even the verbiage makes me want to shank myself with a ice pick. Every day, black birthing people. I'll say it again. Every day, black birthing people. And our babies die because our doctors don't believe our pain. My children almost became a statistic. I almost became a statistic. I testified about my experience at the Oversight Dems today. Hear us, believe us, because for so long nobody has. I watched the video, and we can talk about that later. But she had a premature baby and had 2 of them and blames it on this awful system, that the babies were saved by the same system she is saying is racist against black birthing people, also known as mothers. I can't say birthing people. But anyways, I'm just watching the way that she manipulates everything to be, again, racial. And she's the one saying the 4th of July is isn't about American freedom. It's about white people. All right. With that intro, who wants to take this one first? What do you think of all the 4th of July hate we have seen in the last week?
I think it's disgusting. Honestly, I hate it. When I was seeing stuff posted, I respect everybody to have their First Amendment right and to be able to speak on how they please. However, it really bothered me a lot seeing a lot of the hatred that was being pushed by the agenda system people, whoever you want to call them, because there's so many names, but it was disgusting. And what I did is I was like, you know what, we're going to go celebrate America today. So we just went and bought a whole bunch of fireworks, lit them off, and had some fun. And I think that was the best way to close it off from those people and not give them the time of day and the attention that they're trying to get.
Suni, are you a birthing people? Oh man.
No.
I
have made it a point to just, I'm not even going to say ignore because I don't. I talk about it and then I'm just like, you're stupid. Here's where I am with the 4th of July, right? 4th of July means something completely different to Black people. It doesn't matter how many times we explain, it has to do with the foundation of this country. They don't translate it that way. So am I shocked and surprised? Absolutely not. This has been my existence since I've been born. So you guys are shocked by the anti-American spirit, but I've seen it my whole life. They don't believe in a national anthem. They don't believe in the Constitution. They don't believe in the Bill of Rights. So you shouldn't be shocked because this is how they've always thought before Trump. Just keeping it a ban. This is how it's been forever.
It's frustrating. I see like some of the stuff that I just seen this week, and we look at the crime statistics. We look at what's going on in Chicago. We look at where the progress our country has, where we have a congresswoman from what typically was a red state and historically probably a racist state. 100% Missouri has its definite issues being from St. Louis. I know the state, city and state. To not acknowledge where we've come to is it completely disintegrates everything that we've done as a country. And the fact that, you know what, maybe 4th of July when Suni was growing up might not have the same meaning as it should now. We have continued to progress as a country to the point where we don't even focus on any of the crimes. We only focus on crimes based on race when it is white to Black. I mean, as a whole, unless the alternative racist type shows like ours apparently talk about the issues of how do we fix Chicago? How do we fix St. Louis? How do we fix Detroit? How do we fix parts of Texas? How do we fix these areas that are having massive amounts of gun violence? 200 people were killed in this 4th of July weekend, and most of whom were not, by demographic percentage, were not white. Based on the percentages across the country, it is one group of people killing each other, and we ignore it. And that proves to me that we are no longer this white supremacist nation. We are no longer a racist country because we ignore, actually, we're probably more racist in a backwards way because we ignore the things that we could be doing to fix what is going on in this country. And you've got, I mean, Suni, go ahead, Eric, but you had Suni shared earlier, like she shared Beetlejuice's press conference a week ago saying crimes are going down and they are skyrocketing. Easy, go ahead.
We have, I think no doubt in our country, everybody can look around and see that we have addiction issues, whether it's to drugs, mentalities, tribalism. And for me, these actions just reek of addiction. And what I mean by that is you ignore the things you can change. You refuse to change the things that you know that you could potentially participate and do things better in. And I think we're a country addicted to ignoring problems. And so, to that point, we ignored these problems for, the last 60 years for the most part. And so now we have a whole host of issues on our hands. And there's a group of people that are saying, well, maybe sobriety actually looks good. And I think the America First agenda is sobriety for America. And it's literally, this is the same process that anybody who's been through AA can realize, which is that it's a grind. And right now we have a very patriotic agenda, and you have people who are absolutely throwing the biggest tantrums of our lifetime against it. And for me, it's we are addicted to this battle of ignorance and will of the people to do what you want to. And for some people, they don't want what we are trying to provide as stability in our country. And that's where I think there is a systemic issue of it's not racism, it's not prejudice. There is a systemic problem of ignoring fundamental issues. Could we have changed trajectory 30 years ago? Sure. Should the 94 crime bill have ever come through? Nope. But we can't go back in time. So the way out of it is to grind out of it. And unfortunately, where I think we are a country of addicts is we don't want to do the work. We don't want to take the steps. And that means for every individual. And I'm going to push this even a little bit further and say that's the word. It's an apathy issue. We are so stagnant and people have become so used to their lifestyles. If you hate America, guess what? America provides you a safe space to hate it. We need to grow out of that. We need to make that uncomfortable for people to hate this country and still want to be here. And until we start doing that on a heavy and consistent basis, people will stay addicted to their apathy.
Suni.
Well, that approach is a one-size-fits-all approach. It's a one-size-fits-all. And you're going to piss a lot of people off because I'm just going to be real. On the left side of the spectrum, they do a great job of meeting people where they are and empathizing and saying, okay, I understand. We don't do that on the right. It's just, you're anti-American. You don't believe this. You don't believe that. What's wrong with you? How could you do this? But what people are understanding is that this is called, these are generational curses. All right. My mother was not taught the things that I'm teaching my children. My children love America. My mother was taught this country hates us. So this is what your mom taught you. She was born after the civil rights era, 3 years after. Okay. She went to school in West Virginia Tech, and I'm not making excuses for her. I'm telling you where a lot of these people are. She went to West Virginia Tech. She got called a nigger. My dad left her for a white woman. You got all these strikes, and she has it in her head because this is an old school approach. White people are against me. So you have generations of this mindset, generations. And a lot of us make it out because some of us are open and we can see, okay, it's not that bad. Okay, well white people aren't really doing this. And you're open to believing it. You're open to taking it in and doing better for yourself. But these older generations, man, they don't understand where we are. They don't understand. I'm gonna say from the 50s, from the age bracket of 50 until older, they do not understand where we are. They are so out of touch with where this country is, and it seems too good to be true that they can't fathom it. So if you go up to them saying you need to get with the program, this is America, they're gonna buck up against you. They're not open to listening to that. And you're not going to change everybody. We're not going to flip everybody. I think we should just focus on the people that are open and willing to listen. Keep having the conversations, but understand there's going to be somebody that always fights against this. It's never going to change, man.
You're right. I mean, the angle people take, and this is all the way back to when, we started with Cash, when Cash would say, all lives matter. It's like we as a group were yelling that at people, and it does not meet them where they are. And it's the opposite, where it's like, yes, the Dems, and now to go to Eric's point, it's almost like, if you're a drug addict and you meet somebody that's, tripping out on, that's like spiraling down from heroin at that point, you go meet him in a dark alley and be like, bro, I've been there. Just take a little bit more. You're good. Just, just keep, you don't want to come out of it fully. It's too painful. It's too rough. You don't want to sweat it out. Just take a little bit this time. And then you become their dealer. And that is a difference. Whereas we're on the other side trying to be like, drop it now, sweat it out. You might die. I don't care.
Yeah.
Fix yourself.
Tough love doesn't always work, but it is a strategy. And that's what I'm saying is there's definitely there's 100 different ways to look and dice this situation up. And no addict fits an exact model. But I do think we have, to some degree, an apathy issue that allows for, it to become generational, right? Like if there's education, if there's good examples, if there's opportunities to learn those things, I think people, generally speaking, are going to take some of those opportunities. Not everyone, but on a general level, you have more people than you wouldn't.
CRT scares me because it's, as you said, Suni said, it's the older group is the one out of touch. But now if all of a sudden CRT spreads the way that they want it to, and again, I know a lot of states are banning it, but you take the Washingtons and Oregons of the world that are teaching CRT, they are going to have that same mindset. They're going to have the same opinion. And I heard a father talk, and he's like, black guy, white wife, mixed kid. And he's like, if my kid gets taught CRT, they are going to be learning that I am being oppressed by their mother. Like, it does not make any sense. So my fear is, again, the older generation, they're at a point where there's only so much can be done. But the younger generation, if the school system gets what they want, we are in deep shit. And guess what? It also gives the white people a superiority complex. They become apologists that also feel superior. It's a very weird mix. They're like, oh God, we are so sorry about our past as the oppressor. Once you say it, you become it. It's scary to me. I think it's scary. So, Suni, you posted something on your wall earlier about the guy that had the protests in front of his house, and you had a very valid point. I don't know if anybody knows this story, but a guy, total asshat racist, comes out of his house. We don't know the backstory, but there is no backstory that makes this okay. He's at his neighbor's house, and they're getting into a fight in front of it, and he was the aggressor, and he called him Monkey. And then 30 seconds later, dropped the M-bomb on him, and he called him the N-word. And it's like, sweet Jesus. Like, of course you would be. And they recorded it. And people ended up finding out where he lived, because I think he said where he lived. And they went to his house, and they protested in front of it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn today. That's what you get. And the thing about that was, Suni said, why can't they protest that for, the 8-year-old that just died in Chicago 2 days ago? Why can't they have if that group would get out there and do that exact same thing and say, you know what, we're not going to believe in the snitch policy. We're going to show up 500 strong in front of this drug dealer's house that sprayed bullets into a wall and stand there with their fists up and saying that kid's name or saying that person's name. Would this actually create change? I think it will. I think it would. But instead, we're worried about some asshat racist, which is technically a diversion from the whole problem. And lastly, when he was arrested, they said it was a peaceful protest, which it was until he was arrested. They threw water bottles at the police officer. They hit the guy over the head with the flag, all of which is, again, shit that if we want to have a civilized society, we can't condone. We didn't condone that behavior when it happened on the 6th. Yet, that was not deemed a peaceful protest. So how can they say this was a peaceful protest? It was peaceful until they started beating the shit out of the asshole that, again, kind of deserved it. But how do we shift the mindset to say, stand up in numbers against the people that are killing hundreds of thousands of people in the black community? Stand up against them so that we can get this to stop. I don't know.
Like I said, I pulled a picture up, and I'm gonna. This is years of generational curses, man. These guys are out there holding their fist up. They got Black Lives Matter shirts, flags. the Pan-African flag, and none of us are from Africa. These people are what you call brainwashed. They're not going to get out and fight for the innocent children that died. You know why? This is safe. Black folks are scary people. All right. I'm going to tell you that firsthand. We have no problem taking each other's lives because we know nothing's going to happen. No problem. We have no problem coming together for quote unquote racism because nothing's going to happen to them. They know for certain a white person is not going to come out and obliterate everybody standing there. They have a leg up in this situation. I'm frustrated. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been doing Instagram lives, and this is probably why I have a different outlook on all this now. Not much of a difference. I'm just like, we're beating a dead horse. We're beating a dead horse. They think what they think. And at the end of the day, if it's absurd or not, it really doesn't matter because they believe it. So what you do is, and this is what I do, I'm going to call you out. Why don't you show up like this for the kids that were murked? Over 95 shot in Chicago, 16 dead. They're still counting.
Suni, you asked that last night on your Instagram. What was the answer? Because I think I fell asleep before I got to it. But what were people telling you? Because all I heard was, yeah, but so what?
You're deflecting.
This guy.
You're trying to change the narrative. Well, people do get out and do it. Well, what was it? This is what you righties always talk about. You want to talk about Chicago. They don't ever answer your question. They don't answer the question. They just move the goalpost. Let's talk about something else. But I'm telling you, they're scary, man. I called a grown man out on my live because he was like, you know what? We pulled up, because he's from New Jersey. We pulled up on that cracker. He said cracker. And when stuff like this happens, we got to get together as Black people and show these people we're not playing. And I said, bro, you're whack because you don't even show up when it matters, bro. You don't show up when it's a young Black man dead, laid out because another Black man took it. You don't show up when kids are dying because of being caught in a crossfire, playing outside at parks and the drive-thru at McDonald's, driving through what was it? I want to say it was Popeyes. Little girl got lit up in her car.
McDonald's, I think. Or
and
Arby's.
her mom is on TV crying like, yo, why would you do this to my baby? Do you see any of these people? You don't see none of this. You don't see any of these crowds like this at situations like that. 100 people showed up to protest for the young lady who lost her life in the McDonald's drive-thru shooting. 100. So there's nothing that we could do, guys. I'm just being straight up.
That's cool.
We have to exist. We have to exist in this environment. And the best way we do it, call them out every now and then. But we're not going to change their thinking because this generations after generations, this is a generational curse that we are suffering from.
It's frustrating because, again, we're placing more emphasis on an asshole that doesn't deserve any coverage. This white prick.
Have you guys seen the video? Have you seen the video?
When he's yelling at the guy? Yeah.
There's actually a couple videos. Suni should play both of them.
Yeah.
Piss at him like, yo, I want to come through and slap all of y'all.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's interesting. It's like, this is a racist asshole that's using words that he should not be using compared to people getting murdered innocently. And it's like that. It's such a difference in emphasis. And again, when we bring it up, we're deemed as people that don't have our pulse on, our finger on the pulse. We are caring about the wrong things. And it's like, you're caring about a guy talking compared to people being killed. Oh, you're gaslighting.
I will say, here's what I will say. And I think they have a valid argument when they say these things. You pay attention to Black issues, but when a white person is unjustly killed by a cop, silence. And I'm going to call people out because I haven't seen one person put up the photo of Hunter Britton. Not one person on the right. You know who I seen put it up? BLM, Al Sharpton, Benjamin Crump. He was shot. No weapon, no nothing. Officer was wrong. This is where we lose. This is where we lose. And this is where sometimes their arguments are valid when they say, why are you always talking about black people? Why don't you talk about the white people that were innocently shot? Here's your opportunity, guys. Hunter Britton. I have yet to see people plaster his face all over social media.
I saw your post. Well, part of it is his name is too close to Hunter Biden, and I don't want to make a mistake. So,
yeah, I had no clue that even happened until I saw your post.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Nothing here in Utah is being talked about that at all.
It doesn't matter. We all know Crump is after money. The point is, we're not talking about it.
Right. So I'm gonna provide a counter argument, Suni. So here's the deal. I'm glad BLM, and this is good. And I think I'm looking at NAACP holds a news conference. So I pulled up the news on Hunter Britton, Arkansas teen shot. What I'm seeing, and was this yesterday this happened?
This was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So the reason why we don't see it and why it's not shared and why there's no post is there is not, and this is actually the problem, there is not a single national news outlet that has, I'm scrolling, not a single one. MSN.com posted one article. That's the closest that they have to a national. There's nothing nationally. So we're not going to know about it unless we see it. But Arkansas Times, Houston Chronicle, Lexington Herald Leader, the Euroweb, we don't have a chance to know about it. And that's ultimately the point. And then guess what? If I were to scour the internet and find this, hear it from you soon, and be like, did you see this? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I put it up, and they go, of course you'd care about the white kid.
Doesn't matter what they think. I'm trying to help us win at the end of the day. I'm trying to help us win. And no, it wasn't plastered all over mainstream media. Somebody actually sent me this story, and I said, wow, thank you. I'm going to talk about this.
Yeah.
So whether we see it or not, if it comes across the table,
proves our point.
What do you mean?
That we're not even we're not privy to the knowledge that this even happened. Like until somebody again shared it with you privately, we wouldn't have known. We're not missing anything. We're not missing the opportunity to share it until now, because fact is, this shows the disparity in when somebody is innocently killed that is white by a police officer as compared to when somebody is innocently killed by a police officer that is black. There's no way for us to have that information, which is actually forcing the hand of some of the people that you've spoken with, like Mitch on your Instagrams and like Black Democrat, and them to go, oh, you don't care about it. We don't know about it. We don't know about it. We only know if it is a black perp, plain and simple.
I don't know. We know about Daniel Schaefer, and Daniel Schaefer got 2 seconds of the limelight. I'm just being real, man. Well, there are cases that we don't know about that don't get the light of day, but we still talk about them.
We're talking about Hunter now.
I think it's becoming there's like
Can
a
you
full
put up
circle
sorry, Easy. Can you put up Tracy's comment? This is my problem.
Mm-hmm. So like to speak to this specifically, I think it's kind of a cognitive dissonance that's happening right now, where anything now, like we've initially the spotlight was on the black community and police crime, like, policing. And now I think it's shifting. And I think that this is actually closer to, I think, a reality of an agenda that's true, which is that they want to federalize policing. Okay. And so to this point, I think you're right. So the white community doesn't stand up and throw arms in the street and, like make a big rage about it. We don't know about it. Part of the issue. But now, to your point, you have organizations who have taken a very interesting stance on policing, coming in and saying, we're going to play to everyone's, we're going to play the little sad song every time something bad happens. Now, it's important to recognize bad things happen, hold these people accountable. But if the overall resounding sentiment is federal policing, I'm out, right? So that's where I get concerned when these hit the spotlight. Is it that we're not paying attention as people, or is that it's so rare, because it is statistically so rare to be shot by a police officer, right? That it becomes one of these things where I really question the fundamental, are they doing it for a reason that makes any sense? If Al Sharpton's out there and you got the BLM organizers, are they doing it for any other reason than what they started with, which was to abolish local police and institute federal policing? Right. So I don't know that we can blame like a community of any specific individual. In fact, the Black Lives Matter movement, the only thing I really blame them for is pushing an agenda that is not allowing for police to police properly. Right. Like at the fundamental level, that's what they've done, is they've destroyed the opportunity for police to be the good guys.
And ultimately, I'm thinking about this more kind of what you're saying, Suni. When we cover when there is the black people killed by police officers, but we don't cover it because we're shaming the police officer. We're covering it because of the narrative being out there that's a little bit different and a little bit confusing. I'm not putting, so it's the same type thing. I don't want to celebrate or overcover when a police officer does something wrong in the rare occasion, because again, all it's doing is perpetrating this hate against police officers. Do they make mistakes? Yes. Can we talk about it briefly? Yeah, I want to talk about it. I want to talk about this kid. Hunter was unjustly killed. We're talking about it now. I think it's doing its justice. When we cover the other stuff, we're more covering the aftermath of the misinformation. And right now, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look more into Hunter and see what kind of body cam. I'm not going to jump to conclusions. I want to see what he might have done wrong. Unarmed is always a bad look, 100%. If it was, blatant mistake, whatever, I'll do all the research. I'll look it up. But at the end of the day, part of the thing is we're ultimately not condemning police officers as a whole. We will say this was a bad one. This was wrong. What's his face? I already forgot his name. 22 and a half years. He deserved to go to jail, period. He deserved to get sentenced, period. He screwed up, period. This cop, hopefully he gets the same thing. Unfortunately, Tony Timpa's police officers didn't get the same treatment, and they got let off. So it's not an issue of us making the mistake on not talking about the Daniel Shavers, which again we talked about, or the Hunter Brittons. It's the fact that we never, black or white, are celebrating. By celebrating, I mean over talking about the people that are killed at the hands of police, because it's a blip on the radar. It's unfortunate. It's sad. That's not the news that we cover. That's not the news we talk about. We talk about the aftermath and why it's sometimes unguided and unjust. Now, if there's a protest in the street with a bunch of white people saying white lives matter, we're going to cover it and be like, all right, you guys are fucking nuts. Like, calm the fuck down. I mean, that's just my take on it. I get what you're saying, Suni, but I had to think about it and go, well, we're not really celebrating anybody. Technically, we're not over. It's a different situation, because there is no, we typically talk about the news coverage, not necessarily the actual killing.
That's fine. The point I was making is we're controlled by the media. Conservative news, Fox News, Right Side Broadcasting, Newsmax, they all plastered George Floyd everywhere. They all plastered Dante Wright everywhere, Rashard Brooks everywhere. But we don't see this kid. And I think showing that we are authentic and we are about what we say we're about, cases like these, even if you just heard it from me today, his name and his picture should be plastered all over your social media, because the cop didn't turn on his body cam. The cop didn't give commands. The cop shot him in the neck. Eyewitnesses confirm the story, as well as police. This is a case where a cop is clearly wrong. And when we don't speak on it, we play into the narrative that the media sets out about us. And I'm all for fighting. I'm in the culture war. We can fight. We can duke this out. So if I'm going to be better at them and I'm going to beat them at their own game, oh yeah, let's hold this cop accountable. Why wasn't your body cam on? Why did you turn it on after the fact?
Yep.
Well, I agree, but if things were in the other direction, we wouldn't be playing it either.
That's not true.
I wouldn't.
If I found out that a cop unjustly shot a black person, I'm going to be doing exactly what I am now, especially if they're not talking about it.
Well, the thing is, we know they would be talking about it, though. Now, when I bring it, once it starts getting talked about, it's not the only time we really did the breaking. I think the importance of breaking news is dispelling a narrative so that more lives are not lost or businesses are not lost. That's what we did with Micaiah Bryant. When it comes to something like this, again, it's interesting that Ben Crump and BLM is out there because, again, they feed off of unrest. They want to feed off of again, just because a white kid in this case was killed by a police officer, I don't want there to be protests and riots because there's one shitty police officer. I want the police officer to be arrested. I want justice to be served, which I think that we have to give a chance for that due process. I would not be, saying I would not be sharing this. I'd be consistent either way until it became a big media news story and people are tearing down a city. George Floyd, I look all my social media stuff that came up on June, I was so big into this is once the body cameras were out, I was like, this is unjust, this whatever. Do not tear down your city. This is stupid. Because it was big national news. And I was providing a counterpoint to, although sad, this is why it's not the end of the world. The same as for this one, nobody thinks it's the end of the world. I don't feel the need to step in. The only people that think it's the end of the world are the people that are now stepping in so that they could have their faces on the media. There and they can claim, see, it's not about racism, and they can race, and they're claiming, and it creates again people hating police officers. I completely disagree. I would not be putting this out there. We can be discussing it here because I think it's an interesting topic. That's not something I would want on my social media. Just isn't.
Wow.
That's just me. I would be consistent that way. If I were to put every black person killed by a police officer on my social media, yeah, that'd be an unfair thing. I don't. I put the conversation that entails from the issues in the community afterwards, in the country afterwards, and on why the narrative is so important to have accurate. But I never put somebody up there that I don't put it up there because I don't like.
Even though this cop is wrong and all the facts are out about this case, they don't have body camera.
Yeah,
you're not willing to say, yo, this cop is wrong, and a 17-year-old lost his life.
Oh no, 100%. I'll say it. I'll say it. I'm just not going to plaster it everywhere. That's why we're having the conversation now. I would like to do a little bit more back research. I think it's absolutely ridiculous he didn't have his body cam on. I think he's most likely. I'd like to see the cop. I would like to see justice prevail. Now, if 8 months from now, they go to trial and they find a way to exonerate him, and we've done all of our research and I've done all my research and I think it's bullshit, 100% I will talk about that injustice in that moment. Because again, at the same token, this police officer is a human. He screwed up, and I hope he gets punished as somebody that screwed up. And I will see to that. But if this police officer, I don't know the story right now, has he already been arrested? Is he already, are they already planning?
He's been fired because the sheriff said you did not follow protocol. You didn't turn on your camera.
So has he been arrested yet?
No.
Okay. Well, then in that point, if it goes a day or two without him getting arrested, 3 days, that's when I would.
It's been 2 weeks.
Then yes, at this point, I would then mention that. But again, I think that's ridiculous. But then I'd be tempted to say, well, if we live in such a racist country, how is this cop not, if white people matter so much, I don't know.
I think one of the craziest parts of this, and I think this, correct me if I'm wrong, Suni, but I think it goes to that point of look how manipulated our media sets our mindset. Like it's, I think what Suni's saying is it's not that we're not willing to talk about it. It's that we don't have the opportunity to get the jump on the news because there's no national coverage when it counts, right? So like when it's consistent, they don't want to cover it because it doesn't help a narrative. Right now, to that point, I think what we're seeing now is we're seeing kind of that back end getting wrapped up from these activist groups to say, okay, here's the end goal, federal policing, right? And we can do that now by encircling this group that has allowed for us to wreak havoc for a full year now. Now we can come and we can say we're doing the right thing by you too. right? So it's a better than thou situation. And we're all kind of at a disadvantage because we don't get a news cable, right? Like we don't see the back channel, what's coming through, what they pick up and what they choose to throw out the window. And I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, Suni, but is that not your major point? Is fundamentally like, look how crooked our media is pointing us.
Yeah, and
saying,
I
like,
think we should be ahead of the curve.
Right.
If
And that's
mainstream media, I did a show on this morning, and I went through and I'm like, look at this. They're not even talking about it. So I think it is at that point our job to say, look, this is what's happening. This officer was fired. 2 weeks later, we still don't have, his family still doesn't have answers. And mainstream media is not saying a word.
So I think it is time to, this is a situation that, I just learned about. I'm going to dig into it, but it does speak to that big point of like, it doesn't matter whether we're news breakers or news makers. It's at some point, these national attentions that we have, whether it be Fox News or it be MSNBC, it honestly, it's both ends of the spectrum are working towards the same goal, is kind of, I think, what Suni's saying. And I feel the same, right? Which is pull the wool over everybody's eyes and then slowly pull it back and kind of restructured the picture that they see. And so now it is, right? So now we all sitting here, right? Well, shoot, should we be paying attention to this? Should we not be paying attention to it? And it points to the confusion and it says federal policing is the answer. Right.
Yeah,
so for me, it's two different sides of the same coin. They're all working towards the same frustrating thought process in my mind. Now, is that a step into the conspiracy world? Maybe a little bit, but it's also it's a representable side of the equation that I think we're all dealing with right now.
So this is again the issue, and again I'm in agreement that it's now time definitely to speak about it. The police officer, although fired, needs to actually be arrested at least.
I have huge concerns about due justice,
but when misinformation happens, again, I didn't know about it until literally Suni's post earlier, and I didn't really know the backstory until I'm looking it up, right now. But there's also issues with when news is brought out there, whether they're white or black. The sheriff statement said, out-of-state activists and others have blown up social media with irresponsible and hateful statements that has led to dozens of death threats. The sheriff said. The sheriff that immediately fired the guy. Every one of those threats is a crime, and there are investigations underway. Threatening to kill and RAPE us and our family members is beyond disgraceful. This is how, when people just say this kid was killed unjustly by a police officer, and you start just saying that, they look at the police department and they lump everybody with that same police officer, and it becomes, to me, dangerous to all the police officers on hand. At this point, we know who the police officer is. It's very specific. We target things specifically. We say, what's the guy's name? Deputy, do they have his name? Whatever the deputy is, I see his picture. See where his name is. Whatever this deputy's name, he needs to be fired, plain and simple. Or I'm sorry, he needs to be arrested, plain and simple. And with the fact that they do have eyewitnesses, that you move on from there. I don't like to jumping to conclusions of anti-police rhetoric because it creates a dangerous atmosphere for the community and the police officers that are not part of that one police officer. Now, is it worth covering now? Yes.
What I'm saying is we are here to give this a truthful and positive spin. Just because they're saying, oh, he shot him, we need to do this, police. They say that all the time. We still cover stories. What I'm saying is, this is a story that came out. They're on top of it. So when this does blow up, because it will, we're already ahead of the game. We know what happened. We know the officer was actually fired. We know 2 weeks later, the family still has no answers, and we're all pro-police. This is just being well-rounded and fair on either side, because we have no problem speaking out in defense of an officer. We have no problem doing that. In this case, I want to know why your body cam wasn't on.
100%.
All I'm saying is, we have to be ahead of the game. If we're going to be in the culture war, we're going to fight the beast, which is the media. If you got a story and I didn't know about it, this is what's happening. Look into this. Right. When I read it, I was like, this is crazy. And I read through probably about 10 articles. I'm like, why is this not on media? Like, where's all the flash and the glitz and the glamour? Why is this not like national news? It was crazy. And I just did a show about it early this morning. And I'm just like, look, there's no media coverage. This is our opportunity.
I like this comment. I agree. This happens to us too. But again, that sounds, all of a sudden it sounds racially, like it sounds iffy for me to go, hey, look guys, this happens to us too. I told you so. There's a different,
I don't know.
I think
maybe I'm
to Sunni's
different.
point, we gotta stop feeling that guilt. Yeah,
I don't give a shit.
I think at some point we have to disregard some of those opinions, and it's tough because it wears on you to get beat down with that hammer all the time. But it's at some point,
bro, I get beat down every day on Instagram.
I mean, Sunni, I've been hearing you talk about some tongue lashings, man. I've been hearing them, but.
And I
think it is. It's an interesting perspective on both sides, which is on one hand we want to talk about it, on the other hand is we don't want to fall into the trap of narrative, and name calling, because what we want is solution, right? And so it is a little bit abstract how to approach these things as a head-on situation.
Yeah, I agree. And circling back to Cori Bush, just because it's kind of how we started here, they're talking about how she pled in front of Congress about her local Democrat group about inequalities in treatment for Black people. I mean, maybe this was 20 years ago. She was young. I don't think she had a lot of money. I think it's more socioeconomic. I can tell you right now, the reason why I'll counter that story about her saying that, the premature baby, the fact is it happened twice, which means she probably had a condition that's going to be consistent both times. And it happened both times. It wasn't due to bad care, but again, the kid survived. I right now have a friend, exact same thing. She said, Cori said that I was saying I was in pain and they just sent me back out to the world, yada, yada, yada. Exact same thing just happened to a friend of mine who was sent back out there at a hospital in Galveston, Texas. And 3 days later went back to the hospital and they're like, oh no, you're about to go into labor and baby's 3 months early. So it's not white and black. It's either bad hospitals, bad doctors. And I think we have to stop thinking everything is fucking racist in this country. It's not. And then you look at, to end this conversation, you look at and bringing up Mitch. I know Mitch is salty apparently because I took his comment about the yellow bus, the short yellow bus, when he put it on a comment on don't support Trump. I was like, I reported it. I want to see what happens. I want to see if this is something reported. If they'll actually take this down. And Instagram deemed that as not bad, even though it was an Asian conservative that he said was riding a short yellow bus. Like, it's blatant. Again, I don't know how the AI wasn't able to see that. And then at the same token, you've got that page that continues to do stuff. And now I've had people reach out and show me that they've actually been doxxed, not just talk shit about, but doxxed. And Instagram does nothing. Local authorities do nothing, to the point where their addresses were put out there. Threats were made, and they've put out addresses and phone numbers of their family, their fiancés, their spouses, their mother-in-laws, and it's just been allowed to stay up. Nothing gets pulled down. And and I got to tell you, Sunni, if Mitch knows who it is, Mitch, he is the one that was in the back room of our last episode, Sunni, the one that kept making comments on the bottom. So somehow Mitch gave him the actual thing to log in, and he knows who he is. So I'm super curious if he would actually give up his name or if he's going to keep protecting that person. But if we lived in such a horribly racist, divisive, supremacist country, pages like that would not exist. But
facts.
Yeah.
I have an example of that. I reported Kamala Harris's page. Instagram told me they took it down and never did. So I think it is interesting. It seems to be very much along political affiliation lines, right? And it seems even more than political affiliation, ideological lines, which is if you are speaking the right narrative, you're going to get a big pass, a huge pass. If you're going to buck against progressivism or liberalism, whatever interchangeable term we're using for this group of people at this point in time, you're gonna be the one that's gonna get the torch. So it is an interesting world we're living in, but I think it's showing how powerless social media actually is in some respect. Like, if everybody falls into one of two buckets, you're either censorable or not censorable. All of a sudden, people are going to start looking at this tool and saying, well, everything I do is in an echo chamber. And one of the things that we try very hard to do is not be an echo chamber, right? So
Right.
On some level, we're going to have, I think, a rude awakening with social media. I hope, and this is my personal vendetta, is to see people realize that they're only talking to themselves. They're literally talking to the wall, and the only person that's talking back is an AI bot or a state-sponsored.
But there is such an obvious difference between bullying, harassment, and
Sure.
And I just think it's clear that it's just because it can cause people real damage. The person that had their name shared and had their places, they said that they doxed a frontline healthcare worker. So, and they said they doxed the healthcare worker. So then they did that, and people are like, "Oh, this asshole Trumper." He told me the story. He's like, "I'm a veteran. I went in, and there was a horrible VA nurse, and I simply posted about it. Never gave information. Just said there's this nurse and reported her to her boss. That's not doxing. That's reporting somebody not doing her job. So now this guy's address is out there. Somebody that hates and doxes healthcare workers, and then his family, and then his wife. It's like this. It's no longer a laughing matter. This is something that's become dangerous for families. And I was told by the people that I spoke with, like, just leave it alone. He doesn't have any followers. Like, just block him and be done with it. But that's bullshit. Because you know what? If I hear of somebody that committed suicide because of this person, that's on me then. Like, that's completely on me. I have the opportunity I know a few people, to try a couple things, to know the fact that we have 1 degree of separation, knowing that Mitch knows this asshole. And for me not to try to get this page shut down, that anything that happens on the tail end, then to me becomes my responsibility, in my opinion. Personal. Last thing I'll say, Lorraine, I know you weren't name calling. I'm just saying I know how it can sound. I'm just saying that's all I was getting at. Suni, what do you got on there? Do you want me to bring it up?
You don't have to. This is just a guy talking about so his name is actually Josh. He's dope. He's actually just look, like, just being real as to what we're dealing with. All this stuff that we're dealing with is an agenda. And it's all going to come to fruition. It's all going to come to a head. And I just think we should just prepare for it, and everything else secondary.
Let's hear it.
So, you know what I seen today? I'm pretty sure everybody's seen it. It was the National Geographic tweet about how fireworks were racist and they affect the community of colors more from the smoke that was let off in the air. And there were a couple of other big name institutions that tweeted that nonsense as well. They said they had data and statistics to back it up. Now, immediately everybody's response was, the typical reaction you're going to get to the race baiting nonsense, because that's what that's designed to do. Obviously, we all are aware of this, but sometimes we just still fall into the trap of arguing that back and forth anyway. We get into the debates of arguing with somebody on the left that might, agree with some of that stuff and is constantly on the we're oppressed argument in that viewpoint, that perspective. It happens all the time. But what I caught on that was this. Juneteenth is right before the 4th of July. Fireworks are going off days before Juneteenth. They didn't put out any of those data or statistics then. So either they don't really care about communities of color if, in fact, that actually did affect them, or they're just using that and using race as a mechanism to attack every American traditional value, every American holiday. If you notice, every single argument and claim they make and grievance that they have is always attached to some traditional American holiday or traditional American culture. So is it really about race? Do they really care about the color of your skin? Because if they did, like they say they do, then why every single time is it attached to Western culture, Western civilization, every American traditional value? Because that is what they want to take down. And they want to install their new system that they seem fit, and it could care less about your skin. That's a fact. And if you go on Google right now and you type in 4th of July racism, it is nothing but articles from big corporations, media outlets, telling you why you should not celebrate the 4th of July.
I was like, Joe, you just read my mind. All day when we were arguing with Mitch about the whole 4th of July is racist, I'm like, bro, like you guys hate America. Just go ahead and admit it. So you leave me alone. You hate America. It's okay. But they won't actually admit it. The point is, all this stuff is happening for a reason. Everything that they attack, and I've been going really hard at the LGBT community because I'm just fed up. They attack anything traditional, anything Western prescribed. All these groups do it. The lefties do it. Mitch does it. So here's my solution. If we're gonna call out one, we need to call out all of it, and we should do it on a united front. I don't care who the person is at this point, bro. I don't care. And I got into it with what's his name? What is his name? Austin. Because Austin didn't like what I had to say regarding the subject. But it's true, bro. It's true. Stop attacking Americans who hold their traditions and their values near and dear and expecting us to assimilate to you. And if we don't stand up and start to call this stuff out and stop being so feelings based, stop worrying about this might hurt their feelings, we're in a world of hurt. We're already there. We're already to the point where I can't even make a comment about this specific group. We can't make comments about Black people. I can't say Black people are ungrateful. That's why I got 30 days to this day. I got 30 days for saying that. Can't make comments about gay people. Now you got 4th of July negatively affects the Black community. All this stuff that we're fighting, and it's a big cluster fuck. Where are we going to start? And what are we going to fight? Like, at this point, what do we stand on? Because that's where I'm at right now. Some of the like when we were talking about the whole flag thing or the girls and how they were standing, I was like, man, this is really stupid. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this is so dumb. What else is what's the bigger picture? What's actually happening? And where can we actually have the most impact and do something to put a dent in it? And ultimately it won't matter what we do, you know. God's will be done.
I think it's a byproduct of the hate we've had we've grown into for our country. I think that's why it bothers me. And I think it goes back also to what you were saying of, you know, the Democrats, they meet people where they are, which isn't necessarily the right thing to do, but also the Republicans or the conservatives, they try to knock people over the head with stuff. And I just think that it's the same thing where I'm with you on the LGBTQ Pride Month makes me want to, like, the way that it's been force fed to us is an absolute ridiculous load of bullshit. Like, I accept everyone. I don't need to celebrate everyone. It's kind of like if two gay guys came and started licking their face in front of me and doing all this different stuff, they'd be like, oh, you don't like that? You're a homophobe. No, that's not it. It's just, I don't think anybody would like if me and my girlfriend went and just started sucking lip face and licking in front of each other. It's just rude. It's weird. Now, at the same time, if we are trying to find that middle ground of meeting people where they are and also giving our opinions, those that feel the same way that we do on most issues, I don't think that fight is worth it. And sometimes when people talk shit, and I did see the initial video that Austin made, and again, this goes across as kind of a microcosm for it. It wasn't good. I disagreed, but we also have to hold ourselves to, I think we should hold ourselves to a much higher standard and just say, whatever, moving on.
But why,
in my opinion,
like, why does what he attacked Christian faith, number one, and this, whether people want to admit it or not, this is what our country's founded upon. All right. He's attacking the foundations of this country. He's attacking people for using their rights as Americans to say no. So why is that any less important than what we talk about on a daily basis? It's important because at the end of the day, he's pushing a narrative that says you're not allowed to tell me no, and if you do, then I'm going to call you all these names in the book.
It's a tough one.
You know, this is a little bit of a segue, but I'm going to push it in here a little bit. Is, you know, I was talking to my mom the other day about you know, Christianity as a general sense and how it's become something that people attach to and still live in non-Christian ways, have non-Christian values. And I think that this is, it kind of overlaps in the sense that if you call yourself a Christian, you better live in a Christian way, because if you don't, you're bastard. And I use this a lot. You are bastardizing the language, right? I'm a huge linguistic person, which is use the right terms. If you are somebody who is adjacent to Christian and you have Christian morals and values that you implement in your life, be clear when you're talking with people. But it is, I think, Yasuni, you're kind of spot on, which is we have to start calling people on the carpet and saying, you know what, you're not going to use that word and then generalize it so much that it means nothing to me. Like, that's not okay anymore. And so, you know, that rule applies across the board for a lot of different words that are being used and hucked out there. And I've harped on liberalism, progressivism. We've talked about all of these isms a lot.
Republicanism,
right? Republican Trumpism, right? We've talked about all of these things. I think it's fundamentally time we get to the core of the issue, which is its morality. It's at stake.
Yes. And
when we talk about being Christian, you better be doing Christian things in order to label yourself as a Christian person. And so it is for me. I have gotten to the point, and maybe it was 4th of July reinstating some of my patriotic, you know, veins here, but I have gotten to a point where I'm not willing to bend in conversation to other people anymore and say, you know what, like, I can see what you're saying for sure, and I understand your perspective, but let's come circle around to facts. And if we can't get to facts together, then your opinion becomes irrelevant to me, because what you're about to say doesn't live in the same part of the world that I live in, which is facts trump feelings all the time. If I get caught up in my feelings and I'm dealing with my wife or my child and they say to me, Dad, you're being stupid, or, you know, husband, you calm down, you're over the edge, I got to take a look in the mirror, because I'm not living to my principle, right? So, and I'll just apply that to everybody who attaches a label to themselves. Live that label. If you want to be included in that group, live by that. It doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes, fall off the track, be whatever, all of these things. Absolutely. But let's stop. It's the boy who cried wolf, just in reverse. This is like, everybody wants to be a good Christian person, but not everybody wants to do good Christian things. Everybody wants to have American morals and values. Everybody wants to live in freedom, but then they want to digress and go ahead and argue against it, right? And this is where I think people could really insert themselves and say, you want to have free speech? Then stop trying to take away the country that gives it to you.
Agreed.
You want freedom of religion? You want to go to mosque on Sunday? You want to go to temple on Saturday? You want to give to the donation plate at Catholic? I don't care. But stop telling me what it is to be this, right? And I think that is an American value. And if we can all instill that in our children and in ourselves, this problem, I think, wipes out pretty quickly.
I agree. Okay, and I agree with pretty much everything you said. Casey, we're going to wrap it up because Casey has to put the boys to bed. But I got to ask one question, because you were giving a very broad thought process around it. And I know that it started out with a very specific subject. So I have to ask you have 2 boys, right?
1 girl, actually.
One boy, 1 girl?
Just 1 girl.
Just 1 girl. Okay. Yep. Okay. What if she ends up liking girls?
Then we will absolutely have a conversation about what the biblical understanding of what her future will hold. Does that mean I deny her as a person? Absolutely not. Do I love her as my daughter? Do I accept her as she is? Do I love the person that she loves? I do. But I do not have to love what she does, how she does it, and I can explain clearly what the consequences are be. And as a parent, and Suni said this a lot, love is correction. And would
she go to heaven? Would she go to heaven?
That's not for me to decide. So again, this is me as a principled father saying, I can do the best I can to teach her principles, teach her the consequences and understandings of those things. But ultimately, it's her free will. So when she decides what she decides, she gets to live with those consequences. Now, at 4 years old, we're having a totally different,
right? Of course.
And I'll equate this to somebody else in my life that we've kind of talked about on the show a little bit. I have somebody in my life that is choosing to live in a sexual slave relationship, right? And no matter what I do, I understand that there is no amount of attention, love, understanding, or opportunity that I can give to that person to change their mind. I can simply support them and tell them what the consequences are going to be, and hope that someday gives them the opportunity to change their perspective and therefore their actions. Ultimately, that's all what we're here for, right? Is to have that freedom to make those choices, to see how that lands.
Fair enough. Casey, go ahead, wrap us up for the night. Final words.
Final words. There's a lot. All in all, just have respect for everybody and their opinions. Even if you don't agree, it's okay sometimes just to not see eye to eye on a topic. I've been seeing on Instagram, you're going to get crucified if you disagree with someone. And it's getting ridiculous. And we are doing that here within us. It's just a friendly reminder that here in BetheChange, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to try to be open-minded and understand other sides. You witnessed on this tonight. We didn't all see eye to eye on a certain topic.
Right.
Are we going to go out and shame people or report their posts or try to get them doxxed off of social media? No. We're not stupid like that. And so just have some respect and just remember, like SUNY announced Alan West is running in Texas. I saw that. I didn't even see the actual announcement, but she said it. Just a reminder, you got to pay attention to what's going on in 2022. You got to know who you're going to vote for and see in your area who you are going to support. Along with California, you only have a couple months. You have some random dude you got to replace. But it's all for the night.
All right. SUNY, you gotta finish this off too, but I gotta ask you the question. Would Eric's daughter go to heaven in your belief system?
It's not our place to say. Any Christian that says they're going to hell, they're not operating in the correct faith, because it is not our place to put anybody in heaven or hell. At the end of the day, I'm a Christian and I live my life according to what I think should be. But is it guaranteed that I'm going to go to heaven? Absolutely not. God could judge me and say, you know what? You did this and you didn't ask for forgiveness. Last one in. I'm just saying, we're all subject to this same judgment, period, across the board.
Can I dig your guys' responses. I like it all.
We are called to call it out. And I think it is our duty as Americans to fight to preserve what is American traditions and culture.
There's one person I'll say can go to hell. That's Hillary Clinton.
I'm not a big fan of Hunter Biden either.
Yeah, but he does blow art. I mean,
no, that's
Parmesan cheese.
Yeah, Parmesan cheese. All right, guys, tomorrow night we've got, first off, if you guys want to know, I think Eric and SUNY are going live after this on Instagram. And then I am going to, tomorrow night, we've got this bad boy, Changemakers. We've got John Paul Rice from Hollywood. He's got some really cool stuff that he does. It's going to be very, very cool. He's worked with some pretty big film studios, including the one that had Harold and Kumar, Hunger Games, etc. And then he does some positivity stuff now in terms of he's done thrillers regarding runaway teens, Answers a Child Calling, etc. They're all about survival in the face of uncertainty, and also dealing with child sex trafficking and all that stuff. So you guys are going to dig it. He is going to be on the show tomorrow night for Changemakers, and most likely we will do a Conservengers tomorrow night. We'll give you that tomorrow. So, ladies and gentlemen, be the change you wish to see in the world. Sorry if I'm not as peppy. If we're not as peppy tonight, just, for 4th of July, it just seemed like, the world's going to shit. But hey, we'll find a way to make it better.
Y'all better get away from Getter. Me and Casey did
I'm
a
not
whole
touching
live
it.
about that, man.
Freaking
Y'all
fun.
done
I'm not touching it. Once that dude on Getter goes, well, we had to take down those leftist things. I was like, you've defeated your whole fucking purpose.
I'm just calling it right now.
Free
They're gonna
speech
throw a
platform.
message that says, "Got him."
Got him. Let's do it. I need to see that. I kind of look. I think I'm kind of a little bit of on a. I'm not an a-hole. That's my persona, but I'm a really nice person.
Do you see Casey and I's face right when you said that?
I am a really nice person. What do you mean?
I mean,
I'm just really I'm brutally honest.
You
But
call it how you see it.
Yeah, I'm a nice person though.
Casey at the bat. You're the umpire and Casey at the bat.
Hey, look, I'm waiting for people to get slapped in the face with this stuff. I'm telling you. I can't wait.
All right. Take it easy. Everybody have a good night. I'll catch y'all later.